Sutherland. So this Lady Blantyre, or whatever it was, like, you know, had quite the name. She was rich, whatever. She was a maid to Lady Blantyre. Maria developed a taste for the trappings of luxury and came to dread the thought of poverty. In 1846, on the boat to Boulogne, I don't know how to say it. Boulogne, she met Patrick O'Connor, a 50-year-old Irishman from Tipperary. He worked as a custom house officer in the London docks, and he was very, very rich. She was charmed by the man and suggested that he contact her the next time she was in London. She was like, sis was running after that bag, you know what I mean? So yeah, a couple months later, O'Connor came to Stafford House where she was living, where Maria was living, and he took her out to dinner. She told him that she had recently met Frederick George Manning, a guard on the Western Railway, and he was George went into a panic and he freaked out Maria. After he went into a panic, she went into a panic, you know. He told Maria that the men weren't custom house officers, they were policemen. And this threw Maria, like, she was like hysterical as well. And they were like, okay, like they had to flee, right? So Maria told her husband to go to a relative named Bainbridge and to sell all of their furniture for whatever money he could get. As soon as he left, Maria ditched George. She ditched him. She collected together everything of value that she could carry, and she left. Neighbors saw her leaving in a cab with 3 or 4 trunks tied to its roof, so she left with a lot of valuables. When George returned, he found the house in shambles, and he was like, okay, this chick literally sabotaged me, she ditched me, she left. And he realized that he was on his own, so he grabbed whatever valuables she left behind. You know, he got a little bit of money for selling his furniture, so he grabbed some of those, and he went to Waterloo Station, where he got the boat train for Jersey. So both of them, you know, fled, and they went on their separate ways. Police investigating the disappearance of Patrick discovered that a woman matching Maria's description had ransacked Patrick's room. They went to the Manning's house, and in the back kitchen, they spotted that the mortar between the kitchen tiles was still damp. So they dug up the tiles, and they found Patrick's body. The word went out that the Mannings were guilty for Patrick's death, and people were told to keep an eye out for them. And they knew that Maria's motive was purely of greed. She was willing to kill this man for some money. She wanted to make a quick buck. And Frederick, they believed, you know, and they thought that George helped her out because he disliked Patrick, because, you know, he had feelings for his wife, and, you know, they also, maybe he thought that Patrick would, you know, if he lived, he would throw his wife in jail or have her executed for trying to kill him. So that's what they thought was George's motive. crazy. And these men were told to basically take the couple and send them to Horsemonger Lane Gaol to await their executions. Apparently, on the way to the place where she would await her execution, Maria asked the warders, the men escorting her to Horsemonger Lane, she asked them if they liked her performance in court, which is like insane. Like, lady, are you okay? So yeah, apparently at Horsemonger Lane, there was a woman who tried to hang herself before the actual execution, and that lady was called Mary Ann Milner. And after she attempted to hang herself before her execution, they decided to take more precautions with like taking care of the people they were going to execute before they executed them. I don't know. So, and Maria was also considered a high suicide risk by the authorities. So she was guarded by 3 wardresses who slept in the cell with her. And she was able to lull them into a false sense of security and let her fingernails grow long. And one night while they were asleep, she tried to strangle herself and puncture her windpipe with her own hands. And it took all 3 women to, get her to stop strangling herself and killing herself. During her stay at the, awaiting her execution, Maria also wrote a letter to Queen Victoria that she'd met as a servant when she was like a servant lady to Lady Blantyre. She met Queen Victoria. So she wrote Queen Victoria a letter asking her for a reprieve on her case. So to review the details of her case, but that was rejected after Queen Victoria went through her case. She was like, "No, lady, you're guilty. You're not getting a reprieve." She also tried to get George to take full blame for the murder, but he refused to do that. He was like, "I'm not doing that." The executions of Maria and George Manning were set to take place on Tuesday the 13th of November 1849. And they attracted the largest crowd ever to attend a public hanging. Between 30 and 50,000 people came, and 30 and 50,000 people, that's insane, to see the 2 get executed. It was a mix of popular upper class people and poor people, so it was crowded. 500 to 1,000 police officers had to take care of the crowd. William Calcraft officiated the execution, and Maria became the 20th woman that he would put to death. So before being executed, Maria requested to have a black veil, a black mask, put over her eyes so that the public couldn't look at her eyes. And they were like, okay, whatever, so she had that on, which is pretty cool. And the Mannings, together they walked over to their own graves as they made their victim due to his. So Maria walked to her tomb very confidently, she was not scared of death. She just walked over there really badass. And she wore a black satin gown. And George was very weak and in a tottering state. He couldn't even walk to where he was going to be hanged. He was just very weak. I don't know why, but yeah. He couldn't even walk to the place where he was gonna be executed. And apparently, as soon as he saw Maria, like, walk next to him, like, I guess to, like, the rope thing next to him, he turned his face toward the crowd. He didn't want to look at Maria. And then the officiator, or whatever, the executioner, pulled the bolt, and the deed was done. So apparently Maria writhed for some seconds afterward. She was still alive for quite a while after they pulled the rope and hanged them. And George just he quickly died after. So he didn't put up much of a fight. It is claimed that people believe, this is like a theory, that Maria like made up with George before they got hung, but like we're not sure if that's true because he didn't even want to look at her at the hanging, right? So yeah. So that was the end of George and Maria Manning. Now, as I said, the crowd was very large, 30 to 50,000 people, and one of the people in this crowd was Charles Dickens, and he was horrified at how people were clapping and applauding their deaths. He thought it was so inhumane to cheer on someone's death, even though they were so cruel. Like, no one deserves to, like, die and their death be cheered. You know what I mean? Like, he was disgusted at these acts. He said, quote, "I was a witness of the execution at Horsemonger Lane this morning. I believe that the sight, so inconceivably awful as the wickedness and lividity of the crowd collected at the execution this morning, when the two miserable creatures who attracted all this ghastly sight about them were turned quivering into the air, there was no more emotion, no more pity, no more thought that two immortal souls had gone to judgment, than if the name, like as if the name of Christ had never been heard of in this world." Charles Dickens was obviously disgusted at the idea of execution and how people took joy in it. He went on to be one of the most influential people who campaigned against public hangings. And they finally abolished public hangings in 1868. Oh my gosh, I am so tired. That is our case. I'm sorry if I am terrible at whispering. I get really tired in these videos because ASMR puts me to sleep, so hearing myself whisper puts myself to sleep. So yeah, that was our case.